Would you use this cat to detect deadly radiation? This is the question that is raised by the theoretical ray cat proposition. It's 1981, the height of the Cold War, and the Department of Energy's Human Interference Task Force, a group which searches for ways to prevent humans from inadvertently stumbling across radioactive material, is, believe it or not, searching for a way to prevent humans from inadvertently stumbling across radioactive material in the distant future.
Bro, just put up a sign that says stay away, radioactive. Not that hard, bro. Not that hard.
Says the stupidest guy in your high school class. But let me just extrapolate on the timetable that we're talking about. So all of human recorded history is about 6,000 years. And the generally quoted number that we're trying to shoot for in communicating this type of information is about 10,000. If you notice, that one's a little bit bigger. So a sign that says radioactive stay away is not good enough. This is a message for a world where English may be a dead language, or where they may not be literate at all. So why don't you just try it up on TikTok, am I right? Hey, what's the deal? So this question was the ultimate challenge to the semiotics community who study the science of communication. How do you make something so memorable like Stonehenge that can last throughout the centuries, but also not make it so interesting that people want to go to it, like Stonehenge? In response to this question, the German Journal of Semiotics published 12 responses from different academics discussing on how they would communicate across 10,000 years. One of these responses stated that the only way for a message of this kind to be passed down throughout the generations was for it to be maintained through a series of myths and rituals upheld by what was described as a atomic priesthood. This atomic priesthood would be heavily inspired by the rites of the Catholic Church, who have kept their message going for 2,000 years, and in this way, this atomic priesthood could keep the message going to the public, even though that they may not necessarily know the true reason why these areas are forbidden to go to. However, this was not the only solution that was pushed forward, because these philosophers took the idea of an atomic priesthood and added one interesting variable. They suggested that in addition to the folklore and myths, the creation of a living radiation detector that would live alongside humans, giving the name of these feline Geiger counters as ray cats. Truly the greatest achievement in the history of atomic science. It brings to mind, and stay with me here, the noble lie of Plato. In the Republic, Plato states that for the creation of the ideal state, each member of society must be content to stay in their job for their life, so that a farmer doesn't, one day decide that they want to become a chef. To do this, Plato suggests the creation of a noble lie, which will ensure that each member of society is content to stay with their one job for their lifetime. In this noble lie, each person born into the society would be told that they were created with a certain percentage of a metal, and that based off the different percentages of gold, silver, or iron, it would determine whether they were a ruler, warrior, or farmer. And in this way, each person would be content to stay with their job for their entire life, thus ensuring the stability of this society. In this same way, this atomic priesthood would create these myths and rituals to deter people from ever going to these contaminated sites, and that if whiskers ever started glowing green, to run for the hills. It makes you really have this big moment, because in some ways you would be totally lying to people like that. The reason why they think that they're doing these rituals is not the real reason why they're doing these rituals, or why they have to keep a particularly close eye on their house pet is not the true reason why, but you are saving them from certain death if they were to break these rituals. It makes the budding philosopher also think of the ways that corruption could be bred in the atomic priesthood, and the way that these rituals could be corrupted, and also just the logistics of it. There's gotta be thousands of these ray cats, because you can't have one that just gets ran over by Master Blaster or whatever is going on in this timeline. However, in spite of what possibly could have been the greatest philosophical quandary of our time, in the 1980s they did not have the ability to genetically engineer ray cats, and the Department of Energy likely never took this proposal all that seriously, so no ray cats were ever produced. Why even wake up in the morning? However, as you may expect, this topic has generated a lot more public engagement than the general semiotics discussion. Notably, the design podcast 99% Invisible created an entire episode just around ray cats, and they commissioned Emperor X, a musician, to create a tune that was purposely so catchy and memorable that it could be passed down for 10,000 years, which produced this masterwork known as 10,000 Year Earworm to Discourage Settlement Near Nuclear Waste Repositories, parentheses, don't change color, kitty, in parentheses. From the album 10,000 Year Earworm to discourage settlement near nuclear waste repositories. And while in the 80s it was impossible to create raycats, in 2015 a Montreal-based biology lab created the Raycat Solution movement. A movement which searches for a way to bioengineer cats that have the ability to change color in the presence of radiation. Finally, science working for man. These responses show that while the original Raycat proposal may have not been successful in creating a cat that can change color in the presence of radiation, it was successful in guiding the discussion of a symbol that could warn humans in the future to stay away from radioactive sites. So in some ways, a complete success. Also, in the research for this video, I discovered that kitty litter is apparently routinely used to dispose of radioactive material. I'm not exactly sure how that relates to anything. Oh, okay. All this information will be perfectly useless unless if you watch this.